Welcome back. It's 3:39 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, says that police have flagged over 1,200 past cases of rape gang abuse for review since January. Now, of those, 216 cases are being fast-tracked as urgent. And that's, as she also told MPs, the government is close to launching a national inquiry into abuse gangs. Well, here to tell us more is GB News' national reporter Charlie Peters. Charlie, we've got a bit of a breakthrough here, some good news at last for the Labour Party.
Well, Martin, it's been a long time waiting for this update. Almost 3 months since Baroness Casey made that recommendation for a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal and, of course, for there to be a national police investigation. But we've got updates on both of those probes today, with the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, saying that the process for selecting a chair of the national inquiry was closing in on a decision, and that survivors had been engaged over the summer and that a panel had been formed. And then on the national police investigation, we were told that it's now underway. It's called Operation Beaconport, which the NCA are leading. We also heard how it was including the Task Force of Organised Exploitation and the CSE Task Force, which was launched by the last government in 2023. But this government, they say, they've made an 11% rise in its number of arrests, over 820 arrests since Labour came into power last July. But it was in comments after Jess Phillips made her statement to the House of Commons this afternoon that I think actually some of the more interesting information came out, because the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, had asked if she would confirm that those in authority who covered up the abuse or looked the other way in order to protect so-called community cohesion would be prosecuted. She said that. Does she agree with me that those who deliberately covered this up should be prosecuted for misconduct in a public office? Here's what Jess Phillips had to say to that.
Let me say and be very clear, and it be taken away by everybody who I'm sure has the victim's best interests at heart, that it will cover what it needs to cover to uncover the truth. And no stone will be left unturned. And that will make difficult conversations for people. And if people are found by our court system to have undermined and had, disgrace in public office, then of course they should be sent to prison. However, that has never happened to date in these cases. And so, of course, I very much hope that we uncover the kind of social workers that he referred to, and I hope that they face the full force of everything that they deserve.
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying. Data brokers often target vulnerable people with high-interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keeps sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
Well, yet more promises for survivors and victims of these grooming gangs. This inquiry will now leave no stone left unturned. But there was something of a piece of information for Jess Phillips to concede there, which of course this hasn't happened before. There hasn't been public officials being prosecuted for misconduct in a public office before. But of course, that is what the public want. Polling for GB News in January revealing that people who covered up this abuse should absolutely be punished, according to all people across the United Kingdom, regardless of the political party they vote for. There was a majority in all cases. So more promises for victims and their families today, but it does seem, Martin, as though the government is getting a step closer towards that national inquiry being launched, though I did hear quite a lot of frustration from Tory benches opposite in the Commons after that announcement concluded, saying they're going to keep pressing to wait for more information. The government could point to the recess they've just had, but still, with nearly 3 months going, a lot of survivors, victims and their families say this process should be underway. And one final point, Martin, House of Commons quite empty today for that update from Jess Phillips. There were representatives from most parties, but not all. It just did look like a rather quiet return to term for these MPs on an issue of such significance. And I've heard a few critical remarks about that in the last couple of hours as well.
Johnny, this is worth dwelling on. This is a significant story, and it's significant for a number of reasons. Firstly, this is the same Jess Phillips who voted against a rape gang inquiry. This is the same Labour Party that had to be kicked and dragging into having an inquiry of this nature. And you're absolutely right. For the first time now, councillors, politicians, police officers, people who are involved in taxi firms, who got those deals, perhaps from family members, anybody could finally be prosecuted. Charlie, this is a huge victory for survivors, and no doubt a lot of that has been forced down the road by your excellent work.
Well, Martin, I think it is a breakthrough because there has been that uncertainty since that announcement in January when the government said, as Sir Keir Starmer was flying to Canada for that summit, when he told our political editor, Christopher Hope, that he would launch a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. As he was flying away from the country making that announcement, there hasn't really been much information given on what would happen next, which has led to so many questions swirling about what sort of powers it might have and who it might probe. And that was really central to a lot of the questions being asked by the Shadow Home Secretary, Jess Phillips, today. He was asking for clarification on who it might go after, which powers it might have to get to the truth. But Jess Phillips being really unequivocal in her response there, saying that difficult conversations would need to be had, no stone left unturned. It's a cliche that survivors and victims have heard countless times over the years. But if there is a national inquiry with statutory powers, then those stones that haven't been nudged before could be at risk of being unturned and so turned over and really properly probed by the authorities. So it is a breakthrough, but again, Martin, it's a lot of words and the proof will be in action.
Charlie Peters, I really want to dwell on this because it's incredible. I think you've told me before, not a single police officer in Greater Manchester was ever prosecuted, right, for anything that ever happened historically. So how far up the food chain might this go? How far back may it go? A lot of those officers now are tucked up on cosy pensions, out of the public light. A lot of those public safety workers work in Australia, work overseas. People who were meant to be child protection agents in places like Rotherham now performing the same jobs, Charlie Peters, in different countries. Will they be feeling the finger?
Well, there have been so many instances of swirling around my mind since Jess Phillips made that statement about instances I'm aware of that have been revealed in the public, some yet to be released for legal reasons and other restrictions. But there will be certainly cases where a lot of people in public office will be extremely nervous. So there's just one I want to bring forward now, just to paint an example of the sort of people who should really be extremely concerned about information that could be forced out through investigative powers for an inquiry. In Greater Manchester, in Rochdale, in the mid-2000s, there was a gold level meeting, which means a meeting in the police held by chief constables, assistant chief constables, about information they had about suspected abusers in Rochdale and in Greater Manchester. And they took the decision to close that policing operation, but the notes from that meeting were not available. They've gone missing. I think with a national inquiry, that instance is well known about. There should be the powers required to bring those people forward, to seriously question them and those around them, to work out why those decisions were taken and why that information went missing. Because we know in so many cases, the decision to prioritise so-called community cohesion came ahead of the desire and the need to protect children, most of them girls, from these sorts of abuse gangs. But Martin, there were many other people, social workers included, I think, who will be nervous, perhaps even terrified about what this inquiry might do.
Charlie Peters, good. A lot of those people perhaps should be living in fear of them getting a knock in the middle of the night. Charlie Peters, this is an incredible story. Please, let's talk about it more throughout the rest of the show. A huge, huge breakthrough. No stone remained unturned. That quote, we need to sign, seal and deliver and make sure that's delivered upon. Charlie Peters, excellent. Thank you, as ever, my friend. Superb.